Thank you very much for joining this webinar by TrackIt in collaboration with AWS. So my name is Alexandre. I'm from the sales team at TrackIt, and I'm here with Evan, Partner Solutions Architect at AWS, and Victor, Senior Solutions Architect at TrackIt. So hey guys.
Hey everyone.
I hope that everyone is doing very good. So today we will learn how to use AWS Edge services to maximize the security of your cloud infrastructure. This webinar will have two parts. The first part where Evan from AWS will present the different Edge services. And then a second part where Victor from TrackIt will present through some use cases how these Edge services can be used and the benefits that they can bring to your infrastructure and how to secure it better. So if you're eager to learn how to make your cloud environment faster, safer, and better protected against cyber threats, thanks to AWS Edge computing tools, then stay tuned. And I will let Evan introduce himself and kick off this webinar.
Awesome. Hello everyone. Like Alexander said, my name is Evan Elazai. I'm a Partner Solutions Architect here at AWS. Been here for about 2 years. I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen. And today I will be presenting for you a quick overview of 3 of our core Edge services. So first is Amazon CloudFront, which is our content delivery network. Next is AWS WAF, which stands for Web Application Firewall. And last I'll be highlighting is AWS Shield Advanced, which is our managed DDoS protection service. So first is Amazon CloudFront. So unfortunately, accessing customers who access your application on AWS, it is not this straightforward. There are many networks that can be between your users and your AWS application, and the paths that the traffic will take might differ. And whenever these hops occur, there's always a chance, that you have any increased latency or an increased risk for any attacks to happen along each of those hops. Ultimately, that's kind of significantly impact your users, the performance for your users. Now, adding edge services to your infrastructure can remove these inefficiencies. Services like CloudFront and Route 53 will get your users' traffic into the AWS network much faster. And services like Shield and WAF can help mitigate that risk from any attackers in the middle. Additionally, there's other services like Lambda at Edge that adds a level of intelligence and control, but overall, the result is drastically improved efficiency. Additionally, here are some other high-level benefits of CloudFront. You get things like network acceleration, especially TCP optimization. You get caching, so regional edge caching, and you can also have granular cache control. You get content ingest, put and post, all for S3. You get latency-based routing and a bunch of extra features listed here. The next service I want to go into is WAF, which stands for Web Application Firewall. And at a high level, it's a highly configurable and scalable cloud-native web application firewall. But what that means and how you can think of it is the first line of defense for all the traffic coming into your application and your first line of defense against any incoming threats. Some high-level benefits of WAF, it's a frictionless setup. So you can deploy WAF into your existing infrastructure without changing anything. There's no need to configure any SSL certificates or change your DNS configuration. It's kind of good to go right out of the box. There's low operational overhead. So we have ready-to-use CloudFormation templates that let you get up and going really quickly. There's built-in SQL injection and cross-site scripting exploit detection, as well as you can get a set of rules that curated from our partners through the AWS Marketplace. Next is customizable security. There's a highly flexible rule engine, and that lets you inspect any part of any incoming request in under a millisecond. And lastly is advanced automation. So the whole architecture is API driven and the rule propagation is really, really fast. So it allows you to detect and respond to any incoming threats in real time. The last service I want to showcase for today is Shield Advanced, which is our managed DDoS protection service. So providing effective DDoS protection is really difficult. Traditional solutions are complex and very expensive, or they require you to deploy and maintain additional infrastructure like network appliances or sensors or host-based agents. Additionally, security teams have to spend a lot of time setting up the monitoring correctly, and that can be a lot of time that's wasted responding to any threats that could potentially be coming in. And finally, with any pre-built commercial solutions, you're also responsible for whatever upfront infrastructure might be used and any licensing costs as well that could be incurred. On top of that, there's also an ever-expanding threat landscape. You have attacks that come from networking like SYN floods or reflection attacks, but you might also have vulnerabilities that could exist in your application, things like a SQL injection attack or cross-site scripting. And then you might have bot traffic coming into your website or your web application, and there will be some good bots like search engine crawling or website monitoring. You'd want your website to be indexed and visible on search engines, and you'd want your website to be monitored for a healthy amount of latency and that everything's running properly. But you also want to be preventing bad bots, so any comment spamming bots or SEO spamming bots or fraud bots. And this is a difficult challenge, but it's something that Shield Advanced is capable of doing. So Shield Advanced really under the hood is a package of multiple other AWS services with additional features on top of it. So as part of your package with Shield Advanced, you also get access to WAF, which is what I mentioned earlier, as well as AWS Firewall Manager, which allows you to centrally configure and manage any security rules across your accounts or applications. And as for the overall benefits, you can see in that blue square in the top left, Shield Standard, you only get level 3 to level 4 protection of the network stack for your AWS infrastructure. But as part of your Shield Advanced package, you get access to all of the boxes here. So the ones I want to highlight is on top of L3 to L4, you get all the way from L3 to level 7 protection for applications. You get access to a 24/7 Shield response team. So any issues that might be occurring, if you notice that you might be having an attack, you can call up on the Shield response team and we'll be there to help you. And the last thing I want to highlight too is cost protection. So if as a result of a DDoS attack, any of your infrastructure automatically scales out to cover that extra traffic. That's not, real traffic because it's an attack. Then you can have that cost reimbursed to you. So that's all that I have to say for the service that I wanted to highlight, and I'll go over and pass it over to Victor.
Thanks, Evan. So let me just share my screen. Okay, so thanks, Evan, for this presentation. So for this introduction on the AWS services. So who am I? I'm Victor Jubilei. I'm a senior solution architect at TrackIt. I've been with TrackIt for about 6 years now, and I specialize a lot in everything related to edge services. So the meat of what we'll be talking about today. And so first of all, we'll go over who we are, TrackIt as a company and what we do. And then we'll go over some case studies that highlights the different services that we were presented today. So who is TrackIt? So TrackIt is a 10-year-old company. We are an AWS Advanced Tier Service Partner. We mostly do system integration for different companies, so helping company moves to AWS and getting our hands dirty with using the AWS resources to help them with their needs. We do a lot of edge services projects. We have a lot of expertise in that. We come from media, so we have a lot of experience in media, and those are usually pretty much highly correlated. So we are incorporated in Los Angeles, and we have teams from all over the world in the US, France. I myself am from France, and Brazil. We also do some software development for customers and build a lot of cloud native software. So as said, our three main superpowers, we have the media workflows coming from heavy backgrounds in media. We can add a lot of value for companies that need a media workflow in the cloud or the media workflow migrated to the cloud. We do a lot of software development as well, either backend or frontend, or even custom software for specific needs for clients. And we also have a big focus on security, which is coming from the fact that we have a lot of experience in media, and usually with the big media companies, you need to have a really strong focus on security. So we've developed that through this experience. So some of the companies we work with, you can see a few big names there. We have Paramount and CBS. for the big studios. And we also have a lot of mid-range companies. You can find some Junkin Media, Pixel Logic, Bundles, things like that. And a lot of cloud native companies that, for example, Fashion Nova, Clips TV, or anything like that, that were built in the cloud, and that we helped meet their goals with that. So now that we did about a bit of the boring part about the marketing side of it, we'll talk more about some case studies that we did and actually some migrations that we did with clients. So the first one we'll go over is Medici. So Medici is a really interesting company. It's the Netflix for classical music. It's been around for quite a while. They were born in Europe, had a strong focus in Europe. And as they grew, they realized they were starting to have issue with infrastructure. Mostly, they had customers in emerging markets, so South America, Southeast Asia, Oceania, like Australia, and they were starting to get a lot of performance issues, quality of service issues, because everything was streaming from a central place in Europe. The bucket was in Paris, and so they needed a way to handle those emerging markets, and they needed as well an overhaul of the media transcoding solution, which it's not really the subject here, but it was linked them both. So what we did, we came and we upgraded the CloudFront configuration to allow for multiple origins. We moved some origins in Southeast Asia, so the video content could be served really faster for those users. And this project shows a big strength of AWS, is that with the same tools you start for when you're small, when you grow and you have a reach that you don't really expect it to have, those same tools can be used without a big migration or anything, just by adding some components. Here we just replicated the S3 bucket and created some Lambda attach function. And with just small adjustments, you're able to leverage those tools and to then access an even bigger market. So that shows you really a strength of the AWS tool set, where it's built for starting really easily on it, but also to when you have to grow, it allows you to do that as well. So the next one we'll see, it's X-Write. So the name by itself that might not ring a bell for you like that, but it's a company behind Pantone. So the color palettes and the company that does all the colors. And they are really a huge company specialized in a lot of everything related to colors. So they can have spectrophotometers, densometers, polarimeters, things like that to measure the colors and to allow for yes, to focus on the colors. So what we did for them, they were having the CDNs on Akamai that were pointing to an origin on VMware, something you don't really see often, and they wanted to migrate to AWS because really they wasn't getting the love they wanted from Akamai. It was too expensive. They had issue with the configurations. It didn't do everything they wanted. So we had a big migration for them to move them over from Akamai to AWS. So we didn't move just the CDN part of it. It was a big part of it, of course, because Akamai is first of all a CDN. But we also had to migrate their WAF configuration, as well as DDoS protection. So they were using Akamai DDoS protection, and we moved them. So we moved over to WAF and Shield Advanced. And when you are doing some big migration like that, there is a lot that comes into it. Mostly, because of the incompatibilities between how a service is built versus another one. So Akamai is a logic on how you configure it is not the same as how you configure the CloudFront. So you need to extract the business needs from this configuration and see if they apply on CloudFront or any other third-party provider. And so it's really a work of extracting those business needs, really evaluating them to see if they are still needed, if it was legacy, if it's something that makes sense only in one platform and not on the other, and then to to re-implement those business needs in another platform. And we did that for CloudFront, of course, but also with WAF, because they were using WAF configuration from Akamai, they were using managed rules from Akamai. So we had to evaluate how the managed rules on Akamai what was they doing, what the AWS managed WAF rules were doing, and compare them and test them out to see if it was compatible. And Shield Advanced, it was a bit easier because Shield Advanced, as Ivan said before, it really abstracts away a lot of the complexity about DDoS protection. You don't have specific configuration to do, or like really complicated rules to set up. You just enable it on the resources you want to protect, and then it does all the rest for you. So that's pretty much what we did for X-Write. And again, also something that shows, because the origin was on VMware, it wasn't actually on the AWS account. So it also shows that you can leverage the AWS toolset, especially the edge ones, even if your origin servers are not on AWS. So here we were able to manage, to leverage Shield Advanced, WAF, and CloudFront for an origin that was outside of AWS. And now we'll talk more about Pelmorex. So Pelmorex is also pretty a well-known company. It is the main weather service provider in Canada and also a big part of North America. So everything related to weather, the weather forecast, they have a lot of professional APIs, a lot of data gets queried through it. And also with them, we needed to migrate from Akamai to CloudFront. But one of the complexities there was we needed to do a cutover pretty cleanly and without any risk of interruption because of how big they were and how used the service was. It was pretty essential to not have any issues. Another difficulty we had there that was interesting to migrate. They had a lot of websites to migrate at once. I think it was something like 5 or 10 website configuration to migrate over at once. And something they had trouble with Akamai was everything was done through a console. They didn't have any config files of like text file of configuration for that. Everything was done manually. And so there wasn't really a good way to track it. And since also a lot of the configuration was reused between the different sites, you had a lot of duplicated configurations that you needed to manage, and avoiding drift and other things like that is pretty hard when you're starting to grow. So we migrated them over to CloudFront. We did a full infrastructure as code configuration through Terraform. We also migrated WAF and migrating them over to AWS WAF and enabled Shield Advanced, but pretty much the same as what we did for X-Write. And we also, we had to test a lot of those behaviors, same as before. We had to identify the business needs and validate that they were still useful to migrate. And yeah, that's mostly what we've done for them, and it shows again how CloudFront can and the edge services can really help you leverage those leverage for migration or leverage for your needs. And so I think that's pretty much it for all the case studies we had. So if you have any questions or anything like you want to ask, or if you want any more information, please feel free to ask.
Yes, if anyone wants to ask any question, you can write in the chat. And I think Brad, our president, is here. So if Brad, you want to say hi and say something, feel free to talk.
I appreciate it. Thanks a lot. And sorry, my camera isn't working for some reason today. But thanks everybody for attending the call. As you can probably tell, as Victor went through the use cases or the case studies, there are a lot of layers in this onion when looking to do a CDN migration and implement security rules around it. We're always happy to have a conversation about what it might entail and what level of effort it might take to move to CloudFront from any of the other CDN services. However, I think what you'll find is that once you do, moving to CloudFront provides a fantastic connectivity into the rest of AWS services. And what we find from our clients is once we have a cohesive environment like that, it becomes much, much easier to enhance the services that you're using and increase the utility of your web presence. So feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to have a conversation, and thanks for attending today. Thank you, everybody.